some huge news dropped by way of gamesindustry.biz. I thought it was an interesting article that I want to talk about with you guys. Over the last month or so, we've talked about how Phil Spencer understands the importance of what he has to do with Xbox moving forward. He's done a lot with it, and one of the big concerns with Xbox is that they don't have the exclusives that PlayStation has. And Jordan and I had a very funny conversation last week talking about how PlayStation nails everything as far as exclusives, and Xbox is nailing everything as far as services, and they are kind of doing what the other one does worst, right? And they're doing it the best. And if they were to somehow merge into a company, they'd have all their corners covered.
If we just had some third party who could get their shit together.
Nintendo. This article by GamesIndustry.biz is titled "Xbox First Party is Critical for Scorpio," says Spencer. This article comes by way of James Brightman. I'm going to read you guys the article. It's not too long, and then we'll talk about what he has to say, because I think he has a lot of interesting things to say. And the thing I appreciate about Phil Spencer is he understands, he has media training, so he understands not to let anything leak, but he doesn't bullshit. He's very straightforward with a lot of things, and he's willing to tell you how he sees it, which I think is great. So we're going to get into the article here. Microsoft has yet to shed all of the details on its upcoming Project Scorpio, but with the new hardware launch scheduled for later this year, the company has been ramping up its efforts internally. A huge part of the effort will be having top-notch software and to showcase the impressive power of the Scorpio, and typically that burden falls to the platform holder. Xbox head Phil Spencer recognizes the importance of that challenge. In a Twitter Q&A session, the executive commented, "We're very focused on IP games. I'll be careful about when we announce things, but I know strong IP is critical," adding that having those first-party games ready for Scorpio's launch is also very critical. Spencer said that having spent time overhauling Xbox Live, his team wants to put the same level of energy into first-party development. It's a journey, started with focus on hardware, longest timelines. We've rebuilt Xbox Live and OS, bringing same focus to IP, he remarked. Most of us would guess that Scorpio will get its full reveal at E3 this year, but Spencer wouldn't commit to a date or event for it yet. What he did stress, however, was giving the software a chance to shine during E3. "I want to give our games more time on stage at E3. I sometimes feel like we rush telling the story of our games at E3, he said. Apart from the important nature of fleshing out his first-party roster, Spencer also commented that he still believes in getting the big Japanese publishers on board. The Xbox platform may be all but dead within Japan, but publishers like Square Enix obviously recognize that there's value in bringing games to a machine that has a global audience." And the last part of the article here, let me scroll down. "I was encouraged by a trip to Japan. More work to do, but I'm committed to working with Japanese publishers," Spencer said. "Japanese publishers who build games that they believe have a worldwide audience want Xbox success. Final Fantasy 15 is an example. Yes, visit to Japan confirmed for me. We'd be seeing these coming JRPGs, and yes, I know I've said it before. It'd be interesting to see how the first-party studio system at Microsoft Game Studios evolves under Spencer's watch. The company's big franchises include Forza, Halo, Gears of War, and Minecraft. Rare is also working on what could be a big new IP in Sea of Thieves, and second-party Reagent Games is bringing out Crackdown 3. That's the end of the article. A couple of things I want to talk about before we go into a little open discussion. One of the huge things, when he said he didn't stress event or time, and he states that he wants games to shine at E3, I think this all but confirms that they're having a pre-E3 event for Scorpio, an unveiling. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that's kind of their game plan? Is they're going to unveil it before?
Exactly.
Well,
Pre-E3
event would be their press conference, right?
Well, no. I'm talking about
separate
like before their press conference, obviously.
You're talking about like pre-E3.
Yeah, because their press conference is part of E3. It's before the week starts, but it's still considered E3.
So they could in like May announce a week or two ahead of it, another event where they show the Scorpio, a completely separate idea. Just like if you look at the timing of when PlayStation announced the Pro event, it was only I think 2 or 3 weeks before it actually happened. It wasn't very long at all. Only just enough time so that press could get their flights booked or whatever to get there, and that was about it.
Yeah, it's for him stressing so much that they want games to be the center stage. I really think that's his way of confirming but not confirming, that they're going to have this event or somewhere else where they talk about the Scorpio. I know you play a lot of games that are Japanese published, Jordan. What do you think about him saying that, even though he knows that Xbox One isn't doing great in Japan, he still feels that publishers should understand how many people on the Xbox platform want to play these Japanese published games?
Yeah, that's a big conundrum there, man. I think I've thought long and hard about this if I was in charge of Xbox over at Microsoft, how would I handle their Japanese situation? Because they're getting clowned out, and they have been for a long ass time. I think it's obviously a difficult market to break into when you don't start there, like Nintendo and PlayStation did. Um, and it's been nearly impossible for them. I mean, there's um, times where they only sell like double digits of Xbox Ones. They could sell like 13 Xbox Ones 1 month, and then of course it's thousands upon thousands of PS4s being sold. So it's a very um, rough spot for them over there. But I think one big thing they can do is putting those getting those Japanese games on the Xbox for the American fans, to start to you know get them on the side of the Japanese games and want to have those brought over, because um, you know play, Nintendo, but really PlayStation people for a long time have imported games, or pick up a copy of Kingdom Hearts Final Mix that before they were available in the States off of eBay or whatever. Um, I think the American Xbox audience isn't necessarily hungry always for these games, not nearly as much as PlayStation is. Like nobody would have bought Gravity Rush on Xbox, even though nobody really brought it on PlayStation. But if there were going to be a place that people were going to buy PlayStation or Gravity Rush, it would be on PlayStation. So yeah, I think if they can get some of these games in there to kind of be a Trojan horse, I think it'll be great, because then maybe the American Xbox audience will be hungry enough for these games to ask them to tweet the publishers, to hit up Capcom, to hit up Konami if they ever make a video game again, whatever. So yeah, they just gotta show the audience the importance of the games.
Yeah, I think that it's Phil trying to cultivate a wider genre for Xbox, right? And I think I do agree with you in the sense of, as it currently sits, there aren't as many people interested in Japanese published games on Xbox than there are on PlayStation. But it's kind of the chicken and the egg thing. Maybe that's because, Xbox hasn't had all of these Japanese published games. So how are you going to have an audience when you haven't cultivated one? And I think there's plenty of room for that. And, I'm not going to complain against more games being on Xbox. One of the other things that I think was a really powerful thing that he said in here is that he understands how strong IP is, and that is very critical. And I think this is coming from the perspective of, Phil's always struck us, I think, as like a pretty genuine gamer, right? And I think he understands he's not an idiot. I almost guarantee that he's seen all of these message boards and everything talking about how when Halo and Gears come out, it's like all Xbox has is Halos and Gears, and then when nothing's coming out, it's like, oh, the sky is falling, they have no exclusives. And I think that he understands that though they do have solid exclusives when they come out, their catalog isn't even nowhere near what PlayStation's is, and he understands how strong that IP is, right? So I'm it's great to hear about this. He's also in a position where he's talked about plenty of times where he doesn't feel that announcing things early benefits you at all. So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think we're going to see too many out of the box crazy, we've never heard of this game before. We might see one or two, but I don't think it's going to be the PlayStation thing where last E3 we saw four or five games that we've heard about but we've never actually seen before, or just never heard about, period.
We had heard about every single thing in that conference from leaks, but we had never heard official word on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, so I think he understands what they need to do to fix the position they're in. Before we started, we were talking about the stories and stuff. Dom, you said something interesting that I would like you to kind of re-talk about concerning how Xbox is going to look like 2 to 3 years from now if Phil Spencer's taking in the direction we believe he is.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I think. I think you were hinting at it, and Phil was too, where he's in the position where he's saying to us, like he's speaking to us in code, like saying, "You guys, I get it. I know we need some first party exclusives. We need some big IP that just, that just we have, but he doesn't want to just start admit that, right at this moment, I can't give you anything. I think it's building. I think he's been building it for the past year, and in the next couple years, they're going to start to come out, and eventually, they're going to have some heavy hitters of their own. It might, because that's him saying, like, I get it, we need to do this, and I'm working on it. But I also don't want to announce things 3-4 years in advance, kind of like PlayStation is presumably doing with some of their exclusives. Although, surprisingly, some of those came out this year that we kind of didn't even really consider because they didn't show them at E3. But like Neo and Gravity Rush, etc. But Nier Automata, I don't know. Anyway, that's what I think is going to happen. I think we're going to see a big tidal wave of exclusives start to pour out from Microsoft like in the coming years. Probably not. We probably won't see anything we don't know about this year.
Maybe one game, I assume. Maybe.
Right.
Maybe
something that we haven't heard of yet that drops this year. Maybe something smaller. But this is like if you're a sports fan, this is their rebuilding year. They're selling off all their good players and building up draft picks, right?
Yeah.
It reminds me of when Reggie had that quote after the E3 where they showed off Metroid Federation Force, I guess. And he's like, yeah, guys, I know this is not the fucking Metroid game you want, but we have the NX coming out. And obviously we're not going to make the Metroid game you want for the piece of shit console that only has 13 million people playing.
Yeah. Well, and the thing, too, I think that we have to appreciate here is he could have easily came out in this Q&A session when somebody asked him about them not having exclusives or not having IP. He could have been like, but our IP is powerful, it's strong, just wait to see what the games we have in the pipeline, yada, yada, yada. That's not what he said.
Or he could have bullshit him even harder and said, well, we do have exclusives. Look how much Gears of War sold, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. He didn't. He's like, I understand how strong having IP is. It's critical. He's like, and we're working on that. Like, I'm working on getting stronger IP for Xbox. Like, he's like, yeah, I understand. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I hear you.
It seems like Phil Spencer has to say that a lot these days. People are like, but Phil, what about Xbox? He's
It'll
like,
pay off.
I'm working on it, guys. Did you not see what fucking Don Matrick left me with? Like,
yeah, it's I can only do so much in so little time, and he has done quite. If you look at his track record since he's taken over, like recently with Game Pass and backwards compatibility and completely tonally shifting.
Sorcerer.
Yeah. So I'm excited for the future of Xbox. I like that he's he's not necessarily candid, but he is honest. With the Xbox brand right now, and I do agree with them. Don't go crazy and think you're going to see all these revelations at E3 this year with Xbox. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw at least one thing. There could be some third-party partnerships as far as marketing, especially with Scorpio and stuff that surprise us. But as far as a new IP, maybe one thing. But look for 2-3 years from now. Microsoft has a lot of money that they can put into this and put behind it. And the whole conversation we've had about this multiple times is Sony relies on PlayStation a lot more than Microsoft does on Xbox, and I think Xbox is basically telling Microsoft like, hey, if we can inject some money, we can bring in a lot more revenue, and it's from the Microsoft's perspective, it's like it's a win-win. Whereas with Sony, it's like we need to put money into these PlayStation exclusives because PlayStation's our breadwinner. They account for so much of the profit for Sony, so. It's going to be interesting how these next couple years shape out with Project Scorpio, whether it's a new Xbox or it's Xbox 1.5, PlayStation 5, and the other iterations they might do. It's going to be interesting to see how these things play out. But like we've said before,
it's gonna be called the Xbox One 2 Switch.
Like we said before, the best thing PlayStation gamers can hope for is that Xbox gets tons of awesome exclusives because competition is best for all of us. So, yep. I can't wait for the future of that.